Hello, friends, beautiful souls, beautiful people. It is Kathryn and Elevated Consciousness Coach, 5D Visionary. I'm going to be tagging some people here that I know were interested in this live. So, Diana, I was just going to tag you, so thanks for being here. If you guys have anyone, if you're watching this live on Facebook, this will be in my YouTube page later. This will also be on my Time Benders Toolbox podcast. I'm probably going to be posting this on LinkedIn as well. I forgot who else needed to be tagged. I think I can get everybody. So I'm going to get into it in just a second, and please bear with me. A couple more people. And I'll tag the rest in the replay. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Kathryn and I am a 5D visionary, an elevated consciousness coach, and I talk a lot about spiritual awakening. I talk a lot about ascension. I talk a lot about the path that we are taking towards ascension, but mostly about the greater picture. I'm really about helping people pull the lens back and see the bigger story that's going on. And there isn't a better time for me to go live and talk about what's going on right now underneath all the fear and the panic and the worry and the anxiety and the separation and the fragmenting from pure unity consciousness. There is an underlying story and a foundation for what is taking hold here that needs to be recognized and needs to be talked about. So, couple things on this message. If you are looking for a healing of the fear, if you're looking for some immune boosting, energetic healing, something along those lines, that is not what this is about at all. This is a talk about the bigger picture of what's really going on. That being said, hey, we're all adults here. If something I say does not jibe with you, fine. You take what you will from this message and leave the rest, okay? But there are things that really need to be brought up to the light, and that's certainly what this timeline, the coronavirus timeline, is bringing in for us. It's bringing a lot of shadow into light, a lot of things that we need to look at, a lot of things we need to consider, things that can no longer be swept underneath the rug. I don't care how pervasive the fear and the panic and the worry and anxiety is. What I'm talking about is really important too. And it's so vital that we take this information to heart right now. So if something jibes with you here, the greater message of what I'm bringing here today, which comes from my work with working with the nature of time itself, specifically timelines, working through many different past and future timelines to bring this information forth to you guys, working with my galactic team. This information comes from those sources. It's either going to resonate with you or it's not. Take what you will and leave the rest, okay? But there's going to be some nuggets in here for you folks who are really feeling this disillusionment, the chaos of being pulled in several different directions because of the energies that are so pervasive right now that are lending themselves towards fear and panic, separation, fragmenting of consciousness. This message is for you. And especially those of you who identify as being thought leaders or way showers, people who are here to help lead humanity forward through the ascension process, but are feeling this disillusionment in a really big way and are feeling like, I have no idea what to do next because I'm getting caught up in this mess too. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too, and I don't know how to turn the fear off. This is for you, okay? So I want to welcome everyone who's here, who's joining. Thanks for being here. So before I even start talking about any of this, I want to invite you guys to take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath that settles your energy, that allows you to collect all parts and pieces of you that you have fragmented and fractured and sent outward away from you because you're feeling these messages of separation so strongly. We also separate and fragment from self. We send our energy off in a million different directions. So I want you to just very quickly take a deep breath and call all those parts back. Call them into love, call them into forgiveness, call them into self-acceptance, call them back into wholeness. So just give yourself a beat here to do that, okay? I want to talk about this in a very sacred space where you're not going to go into the ego fear, because as we know, there's plenty of that going on right now, and we don't need to be marinating in that soup of the ego fear right now. So collect yourself back and just call in your higher self. And a very quick and dirty way to do that is just say, higher self, higher self, higher self. And just feel a shift in awareness, almost like you're putting on the suit, a suit of armor, a suit of protection, a suit of light, if you will, that is an enhancement of you by your higher self, almost like a veil of awareness just on the outside of your physical being, okay? And then take another deep breath in and just bring all your energy into the heart. Because that's where I'm inviting you to listen to this message from, okay? We can leave this out for a second. Let's focus on this for a little bit, okay? So I welcome you guys to share this with your community. There's going to be information in here, hi Kristen, that's going to be really, really beneficial for some people who are really, really feeling this conflict, this inner conflict and outer conflict right now and don't know what to do with it. Literally feel stymied about, what do I do next? What do I say? Maybe you have a community of people that you support and you have no idea what to tell them right now. Again, this is for you. So feel free to share this. This is on my personal page. So you're welcome to share this with your community far and wide. And I please invite you to do that, okay? Thank you, my readers. Thanks. So those of you who aren't familiar with me, I do a lot of work in timelines. So I teach a class about it. I teach a master class about it where we explore all things about the nature of time and timelines and how to manipulate the fabric of time by knowing the difference between physical time and psychological time. And I do a lot of, let's just say, information sleuthing by working in timelines, remote viewing past and future concurrent timelines. Everything is concurrent. Everything is the now. Everything is part of the eternal now. So there is no past and there's no future. However, what you're glimpsing are potentials when you look at timelines. And there are a lot of potentials at work right now. And most prominently, if there's a bigger takeaway from you here, for you here, it is to know that we are in a very, very high intensity moment of dueling timelines. So there's going to be some truth in here that some of you might reject. That's fine. But if you're in your higher self incarnation, if you're bringing this information into the heart, you'll be able to discern your truth from this higher vantage point of self. So if you're up here, please bring your energy into your heart. Ask your higher self to help you disseminate this information in the highest and best way for you, for your truth, for what resonates for you as truth, okay? So we are in a place of polarity and duality here on planet Earth. Mothership Earth is all about duality. It is all about polarity. It is exploring contrast. Everything about our experience here is about exploring contrast. As long as we are in a predominant 3D time-space matrix of reality, this will be the case, okay? So as long as you inhabit a body, this will be the case. Exploring this contrast of polarity, okay? We have an ascension matrix that is programmed with the divine human blueprint codes for ascending to elevated consciousness. But in this duality that we find ourselves in 3D, we also have a false ascension matrix. It is fueled by the artificial machinery of negative alien intelligences. It is fueled by the machinery of those who would hold us back from our ascension into our divine human blueprint incarnation. It is this false ascension matrix is fueled by the artificial machinery of false timelines. False timelines are exactly what triggers you into going into survival mode, survival state consciousness, fight or flight, the ego fear. These are all projections based on a false ascension matrix. The ego personality can be sublimated, it can be transcended in this lifetime if you are aligning yourself with the codes of the true organic ascension matrix. So a lot of people don't know this. Again, this is something you may reject. That's totally fine. This is information that comes in for me through the highest level of integrity. I trust it. I believe it. I work at this level all the time. So take from this what you will, leave the rest. Our original blueprint for ascension was originally abandoned because of things like dueling timelines. There is always an unseen war for most of humanity over timelines. What timelines will take humanity into a dominant now timeline and path or projection of its future destiny. There is always a behind the scenes war over these timelines going on. It is a struggle, okay? Many of us are not aware of this. Some of us who are working with the deeper levels of ascension, some of us who are doing higher level spiritual awakening and aren't afraid to see this stuff and aren't afraid to work at this level. This is information that is coming to light more and more. Our original blueprint for ascension was abandoned because there was too much negative manipulation, artificial machinery at work, that the whole thing had to be scrapped, okay? And yes, this has to do with the 2012 shift, okay? So with what's going on right now, there is this dueling, again, of timelines that are either running the machinery of the true organic ascension matrix or the false ascension matrix. The false ascension matrix contains manipulated, distorted codes and blueprints that at first blush look like a template for ascension, but it is meant to keep us in survival mode. It is meant to keep us in ego fear. It is meant to keep us in places of being manipulated, dominated, and controlled through the ego mechanism, through the personality of ego, what is the foundation of ego? Separation. The need to personally identify, to have an individuated sense of consciousness that feels separated from and fragmented from the universal pure source consciousness of the all that is. In the true organic ascension matrix, the divine codes for our ascension are held in perfect integrity. They are there too. They are functioning too. But when you have something that's going on right now, which is a disruptor timeline, and that's exactly what this coronavirus timeline is. It is a disruptor timeline. It is machinery from and continues to fuel the false ascension matrix, which many people are in and don't know that they're in a false ascension matrix. They think they're, doing all the right things, thinking all the right thoughts. Meanwhile, they're still caught up in ego, fear, separation, anxiety, and lower levels, lower frequency hubs of 3D consciousness. This disruptor timeline is very good. It's a very, very well constructed mechanism of consciousness that triggers all those things that keep us into survival mode and allows us to be easily dominated and controlled, to have our thoughts manipulated, to have our feelings manipulated, to have our behaviors manipulated. It is a very sophisticated piece of machinery. I shit you not. But it is false. However, what is happening with this dueling between this Ascension Matrix programming, which is running, the True Organic Ascension Matrix program is running, and there's a lot of people working off of that matrix. But at the same time, in this complexity of duality and contrast that we have here, there are a lot of people hooked into the False Ascension Matrix. You don't have to look much further to see how this disruptor timeline of coronavirus is affecting those people. The panic buying, the separation, the social distancing. I'm not saying don't do these things. That's not what I'm saying here. But people who are buying into that level of manipulation and control and domination to the point where they feel They have no control to exert over their situation. That is completely false. You always and ever have control. I completely and categorically reject people who are saying that we don't have any control about what's going on. No, 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 no. Let's shift that. You have complete sovereignty and control over how you are reacting to things in your environment. And that environment can be either inner environment or outer environment. You always have control over that level of destiny in terms of how you are reacting. Are you passive? Are you going into panic reaction? Are you accepting this and taking this all in and just documenting it all and saying, this is all very interesting right now? And gleaning wisdom and insight about what's really happening, this undercurrent that's also happening when people are going into the panic. How is that creating a level of conversation between all of humanity that is maybe good or bad? Are you willing to, or can you have that level of control where you can pull back enough and see the bigger story, the bigger narrative that's taking place here? Because that is what will clue you into the fact that you are operating in the machinery of the true organic ascension matrix versus the false one. Or are you out panic buying toilet paper? Okay? I'm sorry to make this so reductive, but I really want this to be something that you guys can understand at a level where everybody's at. Okay? So this disruptor timeline is enforcing the breakdown paradigm. Okay? And it's doing it very, very efficiently. And it's, when we think of a breakdown paradigm, we tend to internalize that as we are broken. Humanity is broken. No, it's not humanity that is broken. It is the systems that have outlived their usefulness that are broken. And there are many at work right now. All it takes is one glance around in the world around you to see that that is true. Okay? We internalize that and say we are broken. No, the constructs of our current reality are broken and unsustainable. So how can we prep and be cautious in the true timeline? I'll be answering that more as I talk. So I'm going to leave that Tammy Lip for right now, okay? This will become clear as I finish this up. So the true reorganized ascension timeline, which is exactly what's happening. We abandoned our original ascension timeline because it could not be, there weren't enough guardian timelines in place to kind of put the band-aids on all of the rifts in the timelines and the ascension matrix of that original blueprint for it. So another one was created, and that's the one we're working off right now, okay? And it's working better, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute, okay? Don't worry, there is more heartening news for me to share with you here, okay? But the true reorganized ascension timeline, the one that everybody came together and regrouped and recreated, this is clearing away the clutter, okay? Because remember what I said, this true organic ascension timeline is happening right alongside the false ascension matrix and timelines, okay? So it's clearing away the clutter, it's clearing away the old structures, it's dismantling and moving into the higher frequency hubs of our 3D time-space matrix. This ascension timeline, in order to preserve the integrity of it and keep it going, keep the machinery of it going, is not possible without this kind of disruptor timeline to kind of shake everything up like a big snow globe and have all the dust settle again. Because we can only in that way really see what's working and what isn't. It's not a pretty process. It's not meant to be. No one ever said it was going to be pretty to go through the awakening process, right? No one said it was going to necessarily be, you know, painless either, okay? We bought supplies not to the point that I would consider outrageous. There's nothing, I'm not saying anything about not being prepared here. I'm not saying anything about like, you know, screw the people who are telling you to wash your hands and wipe everything down. Do those things. Do those things, okay? You know, check in on the people who are elderly or infirm or housebound. Do those things. Be a neighbor. Be a good human. Do those things. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. But you can still hug other people and have a handshake. I'm not buying into that level of fear. I've been shaking people's hands this week and hugging people, and I'm still alive to tell the tale, okay? So don't believe everything. move into constantly that place of that higher self level of discernment and be able to better suss out what is truth and what is false. So this reclaiming of our true ascension blueprint is not possible without this kind of shaking out of the old, okay? The next octave of ascended consciousness requires a surrender of some of our density. And that's exactly what is going away with this disruptor timeline of the coronavirus. These low frequency thoughts, low frequency feelings, beliefs, attitudes, opinions, judgments. This is going away with this. Even though it feels like there is a heightening of it right now, it's because there is an intensifying. And I'm going to talk about what that really is in a second. It's like we have to have the climax of it before it can, that's like shaking up the snow globe before it all settles, right? This has to happen in order to inhabit our luminosity. We have to make room for more luminous beings to take hold. For us to evolve, we have to go through these stages of ascension. This is a stage or a station of ascension. It is integral to our growth as a whole. So seeing all of this as a transition back to divine order would be a way for you to ease up on the panic, ease up on the worry, ease up on the anxiety. This is merely a station of ascension on the road to elevated consciousness. And holding the space and the expectation of a greater new earth, an outcome for all, is definitely involved. You are involved in this. We're all involved in this. We have to be our own heroes here with this process. No one is going to come to save you. We have to be our own heroes here. We have to have discernment instead of judgment. We have to be sovereign in our thinking instead of giving ourselves over to domination, manipulation, and control of our thoughts and feelings. You are either, by how you are participating in either this false timeline, this disruptor timeline, versus the true organic ascension timelines of holding that greater expectation and that hope for humanity through anchoring more light. You are either part of the problem or you are part of the solution. Sorry, not sorry to be so reductive, but it's kind of this black and white right now because the energies are climaxing very quickly. And if you want to know more about that, earlier this past week I did a live on divide and conquer timelines. That is also what's going on as part of the disruptor timeline technology of the False Ascension Matrix. You can find that on my YouTube channel, and I'll even put the link in here. Hi Sarah, hi Rachel. The gateways of awakening are not pretty. I'm going to say that again. The gateways of awakening are not pretty. And because of the timelines, the artificial machinery of the False Ascension Matrix, these gateways are shrouded and veiled to not look like what they truly are. They're made to look more scary. They're made to look like a jumping off point into a net that isn't there. They're made to look like, if I don't take care of myself, who's going to take care of me? It's made to look like I need to separate myself from the rest of humanity because I only see other. It's very crafty and deceptive and sneaky, these False Ascension Matrix machinery, the timelines of the machinery, okay? These gateways of awakening are not pretty. They're sometimes painful, but usually only to the degree that you believe you have to suffer. You only have to suffer if you believe that the panic is greater than the cosmic payoff of a global reset of energy, because that is exactly what is happening. On a global scale, we are experiencing a complete reorganization of the template of ascension. No one is immune to this kind of dark night of the soul as we go through this transition, but it is ultimately transcendence from a way of being that is outmoded, outdated, and has outlived its usefulness for humanity. The entire template of ascension is shifting. It's picking up speed. But if you're focused on the False Ascension Matrix, you can't see that. We are the guardians here at ground zero. I'm going to say that again. We are the guardians of the true organic ascension matrix. And we are here at ground zero. We are here at this time because we are either chosen or we were selected or both to be the guardians here at ground zero at this time. You can choose to see, as I do, that this is a very exciting time to be alive. This is what keeps me from going into the fear. This is what keeps me from going into that ego separation of wanting to socially distance myself from other. And I'm not saying don't be careful. I'm not saying don't take precautions. That is not what I'm saying. If you think that's what I'm saying, you're completely missing the point. I am saying constantly pull your energy back and look at the bigger picture of what's really playing out here. Go into your higher self incarnation always and often during these disruptor, divide and conquer timelines that are running programs that are so pervasive throughout the human collective hive mind consciousness that it's very hard for most of the people to see the truth of what's going on, but not you, because you are a guardian of the timelines of the true organic ascension matrix. If you feel you were chosen to be here at this time, it's not a friggin' coincidence that you're here now. It's not. There's no such thing as coincidences as far as I'm concerned. You are a guardian here at ground zero, in the thick of it, for a reason. What is that? I'm not here to tell you what that is. That's not my job. Your job is to move into that place of discernment and to know it on a cellular level. I'm here to do this. I'm here to show this. I'm here to share this. I'm here to anchor this. We are the guardians here at ground zero, and this is very exciting. We are perfectly capable of assisting this process in divine service of all if we continue to anchor the light instead of the fear. You are either part of the problem or you are part of the solution. It is kind of that black and white right now. Which is it going to be? You are not being tested. You are asking to choose. There is a difference. The universe will never test you. The universe is only asking you to make a choice. Think of this disruption timeline of coronavirus panic as a high-intensity spiritual energetic activation. I'm going to say that again. Shift this. Pull back from this craziness about this pandemic. This disruptor, divide and conquer timeline of the coronavirus panic. Reframe it. I'm inviting you. Reframe it as a high-intensity spiritual energetic activation that is birthing you into an elevated level of awakening. And an elevated level of awakening means you are better able to discern what's really going on. That's what awakening is in a nutshell. Yes? No? Maybe so? Give me some hearts if you're in agreement with that. Higher levels of spiritual awakening are about seeing what's really going on. Being able to glimpse that foundation of what's really being held true and steadfast as a way of being underneath all the fear, the panic, the overlay of all the separation consciousness. Think of this disruption timeline, this disruptor, divide and conquer timeline of coronavirus panic as a high-intensity, spiritual, energetic activation that is birthing you into an elevated level of awakening. Because for those of us who came here, were chosen or selected to establish and hold sacred the guardian timelines of the true organic ascension matrix, meaning you are tending that garden. You are either tending the garden of fear and letting those weeds grow rampant, or you are tending the garden in your guardian timeline capacity, in your guardian avatar. You are watering, planting the seeds and watering and nurturing the seeds of awakening, of helping people move out of suffering, move out of separation, move out of the illusion of fragmenting from source more and more. And these disruptor timelines are designed very well to keep us fragmenting from source with the amount of frenetic thoughts that we have in our head, our crazy spastic panic energy, we keep fragmenting from the higher level consciousness of source when we do that. That is systematic. It is by design. You are either participating in that or you're not. Watering the seed, awakening all the way. Yes, Victoria, awesome. Awesome. I love it. I'm here to fire you guys up, even though it may seem, not the greatest thing to hear this stuff, you can still fire yourself up with this information, knowing that I am choosing a side here. And I'm going to armor myself with the truth. Because it will feel a little bit like a battle. The battle ain't over yet. If you think this coronavirus timeline is the only one that's going to keep diverting us from the true organic ascension matrix, you would be wrong in thinking that. This is not meant to stoke fear in you. It is meant to be in line with what I'm here to do, which is help people awaken. Okay? Because for those of us who came here to establish and hold sacred the guardian timelines and be the ambassadors for the true ascension timelines of this planet, that's exactly what this is. It is a high intensity, spiritual, energetic activation for those of us who are willing to wear that mantle of guardian. Does this make sense? Does this resonate? So what would you do in that scenario? That if you are believing and knowing, I am going to inhabit more of my guardian avatar. I'm going to be a steadfast guardian of those ascension timelines that are, no longer veiled. I want to be anchored in the light. I want to anchor the light on this planet. I want to anchor into truth, and I want to share it without fear of repercussion. No fear allowed, just trust and flow and surrender and surrender. What can you do every day to minimize your fragmentation that I was talking about? Because the more we fragment from source, the more we'll shy away from that guardian role. Yes? Do you see how that works? Again, that is machinery by design. The more you feel fragmented from consciousness, the less control you feel, the more easily you are dominated, and the more you feel like, that's too big for me, I can't be that person. Who am I? Who the hell am I to say that? Who the hell am I to do that? That is by design. That is exactly the ego imprinting. That is part of the false machinery of artificial timelines and the false ascension matrix. You can either participate in that, and you can see where that's getting us, or not. So what can you do to minimize this fragmentation every single day so that you are in your power, so that you are in your sovereign avatar as the guardian, and thinking thoughts that align with your mission, thinking thoughts that align with your purpose, feeling feelings that align with the greater good and the light you're going to be anchoring into the planet? How do you keep from fragmenting from pure source? Grounding your energy all the time, calling forth your higher self all the time, holding space for the planet's ascension. That means anchoring that light. Sending light to the planetary grid work of this planet so that it is infused with the highest boundary protection from the infiltration of frequency fences, implants, because implants can happen on a personal level, they can happen on our DNA, but they can also happen, these implants, these frequency fences, happen on the planetary grid. This is one of the things that I teach in Timelines in level 2. Anchoring light into the planetary grids and healing the timelines of the planetary grid, okay? Helping to ease the suffering of others, okay? Now, while many of us are focused on, I can't buy toilet paper at the grocery store right now, what the F am I going to do? You could be focusing your attention on, the NBA players who are deciding that, well, if I can't play basketball for the fans and they're closing down these sporting events, I can still help the vendors in this arena to make rent, and I can donate some of the money. That's what I can do to help ease the suffering of others. The CEO of Zoom, with all the schools closing, has decided, I'm going to donate some technology so the kids can learn. Oh my God. All of these things are happening too, people. You have countries in lockdown right now that have decreased their pollution levels. Mother Earth is coming back into vibrancy, into vitality as we go into this lockdown where we have an opportunity, people. This is not a punishment. This is an opportunity to reevaluate, reassess, and reorganize our priorities on a planetary scale. This is good. This is good. So you can be focusing on these things too. Because guess what that's a part of? The true organic ascension matrix, where people are coming together as a human family. They could be social distancing. They could. They could say, I got to worry about me and mine. They could. And there are a lot of people doing that. Plenty of people doing that. But there's also people who are stepping up into their guardian roles, assisting humanity when people are suffering. That is how you rise up into that guardian role and secure that avatar for yourself and make that more real than any kind of, ego personality avatar that you are inhabiting that resides in the lower hubs of the 3D time-space matrix of consciousness. It's your choice. You can anchor the light, anchoring more light through your frequency. It may seem small, it may seem insignificant, but you can anchor your light by singing. Singing in the kitchen, dancing around your living room, drawing, painting, moving your body, writing. These are all things that increase your personal frequency. And you may think, well, it might just feel greater in my house if I do those things. You are increasing your frequency. Anytime you do that, you are anchoring the light. And you are being a guardian of the timelines of the true organic ascension matrix. Don't discount any level of activity that you are doing that anchors the light. That's your ego personality talking, and that's exactly what you need to sublimate. That is exactly what you need to transcend. Because that ego is part of anything that tells you you're smaller than you are is completely fucking false. And it is part of the machinery of, guess what? The false ascension matrix, where you fall prey to others having control, domination, and manipulation over you. Okay? I'm getting lots of hearts. I'm getting you guys fired up. I totally love it. You are counteracting the lower frequency fields of the false ascension matrix when you do those things. I don't care how small they are. You check in on your neighbor. Maybe she's an older woman who lives alone. Check in on her. Be a neighbor. Be part of your community. All of these events, conferences, these mass sporting events, these arenas that are closing, conferences, conventions that are shutting down, concerts, all that stuff may feel like we're in lockdown and we're being punished, but actually it's doing a couple good things. One of the things that I talk about in the very first module of my Timelines Expanded class, by the way, is how to opt out of the false ascension matrix. Do you know what happens to you when you are in large gatherings of people? You are being programmed with reptilian hive mind consciousness. It's very easy to control a mass of people because we very seamlessly signal each other through our own DNA. Through our human DNA, we're constantly signaling to each other ways of being. We are signaling things like genetics, like the way we express ourselves as human beings. When you have a mass gathering of people in an arena, in a conference, in a convention, doesn't matter what it is, a concert, it is very easy to subliminally program the reptilian hive mind consciousness into people. Again, that survival mode thinking, that fear. Okay? Very, very easy to do. So right now, we have this glorious opportunity to opt out from that. What is the contrast of that? Of being able to look inward. Being able to, yes, self-quarantine. But what is another way to talk about self-quarantine? introspection, self-reflection, taking a self-inventory, and having an opportunity to reevaluate your priorities and your values. You get to look at it one way or the other, folks. I'm just offering the opportunities to see the contrast. And the other thing that's happening when we're pulling back from, let's just say, the social distractions that are available to us 24/7 and kind of allows us to get involved in that minutia of our everyday life where we don't self-examine, we don't self-explore. If those avenues are no longer open to you, this is an opportunity to pull back into yourself and say, what really matters to me? Well, now I have to spend more time with my family. Now I'm spending more time with my husband because I can't go to this conference, or I can't go to that convention, I can't go to that concert, I can't go to that sporting event. This is a time for me to reevaluate how good my really small social community is, my family, my neighborhood, the people down the street from me who I've never talked to before because I'm always on the run. I'm always going. It's time to slow down. It's time to declutter. It's time to clean. It's time to reorganize. It's time to reassess. And the wonderful thing about this is it is happening on a global scale. No one is immune from this right now. So when you talk about immunity, it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? And you can see this as a breakdown, or you can see it as a breakthrough. That when the dust settles, there is going to be some massive reassessment on a global scale and a reorganization. The template for ascension is already shifting. It's already here. We're already in the thick of it. Everyone has to be their own hero in this process. No one is coming to save you. There's not going to be some person who comes and waves a magic wand after all this dust settles and says, it's going to be this way, because that's better for everybody. It must be a collective effort on the part of millions and millions of people on the planet to say, hey, isn't this better? With all of these factories running, isn't it wonderful that Mother Earth gets to reclaim her vibrancy? That people can freaking breathe better, right? Okay. So, holding a vision right now for the new Earth is so vital. So vital. So getting back to what Tammy asked at the very beginning, how do we deal with this energy, and how do we prepare for this, and how do we deal with this? I'm not saying at any point here during this message to not take precautions, to create those protective boundaries for yourself so that you stay well and vibrant. That should be a no-brainer all the time. Coronavirus notwithstanding. This brings in a new definition of self-care, right? With this reorganization comes a redefining and a refining of everything that is a part of consciousness. It must be a collective effort for us to decide on, with discernment instead of ego judgment, what is best for me, what is aligned with the highest and best good of all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. If you can hold the vision, and maybe you don't even know what that looks like, but holding the intention of that, the highest good for me, the highest and best good of all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved, that is also known as the God choice. And guess what the God choice aligns us with? The true organic ascension matrix. Because that's all that's programmed into that as codes of being, is God choices. So is it a God choice for you to reach out to your neighbor and just see if she's okay, if she needs anything? Yes. Is it aligned with a God choice to just sit on a nice comfy mat in your bedroom and hold anchor light into the planetary grid of the planet? Even if you're just spending 3 minutes doing it? That's the God choice. Is it aligned with the God choice for you to think of your neighbor as an extension of you rather than other? Rather than a separate entity of you that could get you sick or could make you be unwell? Is that aligned with the God choice? To think of your neighbor as other, No. You can still practice social distancing if you want to and reach out to people who are suffering. Those are not mutually exclusive. And the rest, my friends, I'm going to leave up to you. But keep redirecting your energy back into your higher self avatar. Keep anchoring the light. Keep finding ways to reinforce your identity as a guardian instead of a holder of fear and panic and worry and anxiety. I hope this has helped you guys. I hope this has shed some light, been informative, and has kind of fortified your resolve to stay steadfast in your truth, to keep looking for and pulling back from what's going on and looking for the real, bigger picture of what's going on. And I want to wish you guys a lot of love and peace. Thank you for watching.